going to play a piece which is considered by many, and I agree, to be one of the most perfect examples of musical impressionism, of music of the Impressionist era. And I already talked about that before. You know, the Impressionist era in classical music flourished basically from the and late 1890s into the second decade of the 20th century. And Claude Debussy and Maurice Ravel were the principal composers of that. And it's an era that focused so much on beautiful harmonies, how they kind of mix and melt out of each other. So harmonies is what really draws you in. Very descriptive music and extremely subtle changes of harmony, what I like to call iridescent. And I've mentioned this before. So a lot of this music tends to be subtle, fragmentary, mysterious, watery, ambiguous. These sort of adjectives are very appropriate, I think. And the first decade being the peak era, and the music of Debussy and Ravel sounds kind of similar at times, especially in works of that decade. But that's only because they use some of the same harmonic techniques. But there are definite differences. Ravel's music tends to be more continuously moving, whereas Debussy has more fragmentary qualities in his music. And he also wrote a lot more in quantity. And I mentioned also before that this was my original favorite area from way back, even before Juilliard. What I really was inspired by was the recordings, and I remember this on Angel Records. It was a company around at that time. Angel Records, LPs, of course, in the late 1950s. Of these works of Ravel and Debussy, played by German pianist Walter Gieseking, who was considered in the early 20th century as to be the real master of this whole repertoire. And it was beautiful sound on those records. And to this day, including today, I try to imitate that sound. Now, of course, it depends on the instrument you have, because sometimes it's easier to do it on a particular instrument than it is on another. But I still try to imitate that particular sound that I heard on those records whenever I play this sort of repertoire. I think one of the, thinking back, and Suzanne would agree because she was there at that concert, way back in 1982, the concert I had was in the National Gallery in Washington. And there was such a combination of the piano and the acoustics that absolutely made it perfect for this thing. Part of the program that I played was Debussy. I remember I played the Suite Bergamasque, which is it's a set of 4 pieces, of which the third is that famous Clair de Lune. I think I played some preludes after that. I'm not 100% sure now what but I think it was some Debussy preludes. And I do remember the rest of the program was Mozart Sonata in E flat K282, which is an early Mozart sonata, very seldom done. And then a very muscular piece that you seldom hear. It's kind of categorized in Liszt's pieces, but it's not really totally by him. It's one of those operatic paraphrases that were extremely challenging, technically, but very brilliant and very popular in that great, what I call the golden age of virtuosity of the, mid and for the 19th century. It's called Hexameron. It's a collective composition. It's the full title of it is the variations on the march from Bellini's I Puritani by Liszt, Thalberg, Hertz, Pixis, Czerny, and Chopin. So you got all these other pianists involved, and Liszt kind of united this thing. And it's a very muscular piece, and I just wish it had been recorded. And I played it in a number of concerts in those years, and I was thinking off and on about bringing it back. But we'll see. I don't even have the score of it. I don't know where it went, but I can always order another one. But that's neither here nor there. I'm digressing here a bit. So we're talking about Debussy here. And the Reflets dans l'eau, which I'm going to play now, is the first of 3 pieces which make up a set called Images or Images, Livre Un or Book 1, written in 1905, which is right in the middle of that first decade of the 20th century, which is the peak period for musical impressionism. There are 3 pieces in Images, Livre Un, Book 1. There's also a second book, Livre Deux, or a second book that also has 3 pieces. And there are also 3 images for orchestra, like that. So, but this is the first one of the first book. And here the scene is that of a kind of a quiet pond, say, with sunlight on it, maybe little ripples in the water, and the way that, the colors and the lights just kind of play around, with that. So it starts quietly. Gets a bit dramatic in the middle, but it all ends very quietly. Fragmentary, so very typical of that side of Debussy, which I already said. There's quite a lot of his works which have that fragmentary quality. So, Reflets Down Low, Reflections in the Water by Claude Debussy now.
Thank